always lived in the same small town. His world was quiet, familiar, and predictable. He worked at a grocery store on Main Street. Every morning he woke up at 6 a.m. He made coffee, read the newspaper, and fed his cat. Then he walked 10 minutes to work. Life was simple, but Michael had a dream. He wanted to travel and meet people around the world. But there was a problem. He didn't speak English. Every time he tried to learn, he gave up quickly. "It's too hard," he told himself. "I'm too old to learn a new language." But deep inside, he knew that wasn't true. He remembered his teacher from high school. She once said, "You're never too old to learn." Michael repeated those words in his mind. One morning, something changed inside him. He looked in the mirror and smiled. "I will learn English," he said, and that was the beginning of his journey. Michael didn't know where to start, but he made a plan. He went to the local library and borrowed an English textbook. He also downloaded a language learning app on his phone. The first lesson was about greetings. "Hello. How are you?" He read out loud. His voice sounded strange to him, but he kept going. Every day he practiced a little. He watched videos with subtitles. He listened to slow English podcasts. At night, he repeated phrases while brushing his teeth. "Good morning. My name is Michael." His cat stared at him with wide eyes. Michael laughed, feeling silly but proud. He even started labeling items in his house. The fridge had a note, "Refrigerator." The door had a sign, "Door." It felt like he was a child again, learning everything from the beginning. But he didn't feel ashamed. He felt alive. Every new word was a small victory, and for the first time in years, he felt like he was growing. After a few weeks, Michael wanted to practice speaking with someone. He was nervous but determined. He found a local language exchange group online. They met every Thursday evening at a small cafe. When Thursday came, Michael hesitated. He paced around his apartment, unsure if he should go. "What if I sound stupid?" he thought. "What if they laugh at me?" But then he remembered his dream, to travel, to connect, to grow. So he put on his jacket and walked to the cafe. The room was filled with people of all ages and backgrounds. Some spoke English fluently, others were just beginning. A friendly woman waved him over. "Hi, I'm Sarah," she said. Michael smiled and replied slowly, "Hello, I'm Michael." It was a simple sentence, but it felt like a mountain climbed. Sarah didn't laugh. She listened patiently. And just like that, Michael took his first step into a larger world. Every Thursday became his favorite day. He met people from different countries. Some were learning Spanish, others French, and many were trying to improve their English. Michael listened closely when others spoke. He repeated new words quietly to himself. He learned how to order coffee, describe his day, and ask questions. At first, it was hard. Sometimes he froze and couldn't find the right word. But no one judged him. Everyone was there to learn. One evening, a young man from Japan told Michael, inspire me. You try so hard." Michael was surprised. "Me?" he asked. The young man nodded. "Yes. You remind me to keep going." That night, Michael went home and cried a little. Not from sadness, but from joy. He never imagined his small steps could encourage someone else. And from that day on, he knew learning English wasn't just for him. It was a gift he could share with others. Michael started creating a routine. Every morning before work, he studied for 30 minutes. He reviewed vocabulary, listened to English conversations, and practiced speaking in front of the mirror. At work, he looked for opportunities to use his new words. One day, a tourist came into the store and asked, "Where's the nearest ATM?" Michael's heart raced. He understood the question. Nervously, he replied, 2 blocks, right, then left." The tourist smiled and thanked him. Michael felt proud. That small interaction gave him confidence. He realized that he didn't need to be perfect. He just needed to try. Every mistake was part of the learning process. Every conversation was a chance to grow. He kept a little notebook in his pocket and wrote down new words he heard during the day. Later at home, he looked them up and practiced using them. His vocabulary was growing, and so was his belief in himself. As time passed, Michael noticed more changes. He was no longer shy in the language exchange meetings. He started leading group conversations. He helped beginners with simple phrases. People respected him for his patience and dedication. One evening, Sarah said, "You should think about becoming a tutor." Michael laughed at first. "Me, a tutor? I'm still learning." But the idea stayed in his mind. Why not? He remembered how hard it was in the beginning, how helpful it would have been to talk with someone patient, someone who understood the fear of speaking. Michael began volunteering at a local community center, helping immigrants practice English. He used flashcards, simple games, and everyday conversation. He saw their eyes light up with understanding. Every thank you touched his heart. He wasn't just learning anymore. He was teaching, and through teaching, he was learning even more. One day, Michael received a letter in the mail. It was from his cousin Julia, who lived in Canada. "Come visit us," she wrote. "You can stay with us. We'd love to see you." The idea filled Michael with excitement and fear. Canada, a new country, English everywhere. Could he really do it? For days he walked around with the letter in his pocket, thinking. Then one morning he made a decision. "Yes," he said out loud, "I'm going." He booked his flight, renewed his passport, and packed his suitcase. At the airport, he felt nervous but ready. As he boarded the plane, a flight attendant smiled and said, "Welcome aboard." Michael smiled back and replied, "Thank you." Just 2 words, but they felt powerful. Sitting by the window, watching the clouds, he felt proud. This was no longer just a dream. It was happening. His English journey had taken him further than he ever imagined. When Michael arrived in Canada, everything felt different. The streets were wider, the air colder, and spoke fast. At first, he struggled to understand. Signs, conversations, menus, everything was in English, but he reminded himself, I can do this. He took a deep breath and listened carefully. At Julia's house, her children asked him questions in English. Do you like video games? What's your favorite food? Michael answered slowly, smiling at their curiosity. They didn't care about his accent. They just wanted to connect. That gave him confidence. He joined Julia's family for dinner every night, and they spoke only in English. At first, he felt tired after each meal, listening, thinking, translating. But little by little, he stopped translating and started understanding. One night, Julia said, Your English has improved a lot. Michael grinned. That moment meant the world to him. He was living his dream, step by step. Julia introduced Michael to her friends, and soon he was invited to community events. At a local fair, he met people from all over the world. He heard different accents, different levels of English, and realized he was not alone. Everyone was trying. Everyone was learning. One man from Brazil said, I still get nervous, but I speak anyway. Michael nodded. Me too, he replied. They laughed together, sharing the bond of learners. Michael signed up for a public speaking club. His hands shook during his first speech, but when he finished, the audience clapped. That was brave, someone said. Michael smiled. He remembered the shy man from the grocery store, the one who thought he was too old to learn. That man was gone. Now he was standing in front of strangers, telling his story in English. Not perfectly, but confidently. And that made all the difference. After a month, Michael returned home with a heart full of memories. He brought souvenirs, photos, and a notebook filled with new words. But more importantly, he returned with a new mindset. He was no longer afraid of learning. He no longer saw English as a wall, but as a bridge. He kept studying, kept practicing, and began writing short stories in English. He shared them online, and readers from around the world left kind comments. Some asked for advice. How did you start? What helped you the most? Michael answered each message with care. He told them the truth. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Every new word was a step forward. Every mistake was part of the journey, and now he was walking confidently down a path he once feared. The dream that once seemed far away was now part of his everyday life. Michael's life had changed in more ways than he expected. Learning English didn't just give him a new skill, it gave him a new identity. He felt more open, more curious, more connected to the world. He started watching movies without subtitles, and even laughed at jokes he once didn't understand. He read novels, articles, and poetry in English. Some words still confused him, but instead of feeling frustrated, he felt excited to learn them. He began to keep a journal in English, writing about his thoughts, his days, his dreams. Over time, his writing became more natural, more expressive. He didn't worry about being perfect. He focused on being real. And something beautiful happened. He started to think in English. That shift made him smile. It was like discovering a new part of himself that had been waiting to wake up. One evening, while walking through the park, Michael met a woman sitting on a bench. She looked lost and a little nervous. Michael asked, "Are you okay?" She looked up and replied with a thick accent, "No speak English good." Michael's heart warmed. He sat beside her and said gently, "It's okay. I understand." Slowly, she explained that she was new to town, had no friends yet, and was scared to speak. Michael listened patiently, just like Sarah had once done for him. He offered to help her practice. They met in the park every weekend, talking about simple things: weather, food, family. Week by week, her confidence grew. Michael saw himself in her. He knew her struggle, her fears, her small victories. Helping her reminded him of how far he had come. It also reminded him that learning is a journey best shared. Michael began to speak at schools, libraries, and community centers. He shared his story with others who felt too old, too shy, or too afraid to learn. "I started with one word," he would say. Just one. His story inspired many. Parents brought their children to listen. Elderly students asked him for tips. Some cried, saying, "You give me hope." Michael always smiled humbly. He never expected to become a speaker, a teacher, or a mentor. But life has a way of surprising those who take brave steps. English had once seemed like a mountain, impossible to climb. Now it felt like a trail he could help others walk. With every story he told, with every person he encouraged, his purpose grew, and what had started as a personal goal had become something bigger, a mission to remind others that it's never too late to learn, grow, and connect. As months turned into years, English became part of Michael's daily life. He joined online communities where people from all over the world shared stories, questions, and lessons. He recorded videos giving tips to beginners, always speaking slowly and kindly. His videos gained followers, not because he was perfect, but because he was real. People trusted him. They saw someone who had walked the same path. One message said, "You make me believe I can do it too." Michael kept those words in his heart. Every evening after dinner, he answered comments and created new content. It wasn't about fame or success. It was about giving back. He knew how it felt to struggle alone. He wanted to be the voice that says, "You're not alone. Keep going." With every message he wrote, he was writing the chapter he once wished to read. Michael's world expanded beyond anything he had imagined. He traveled to countries he had once only seen in books: England, India, South Africa, Australia. Everywhere he went, English was the bridge that connected him to others. He had tea with teachers in London, danced at a wedding in Mumbai, and shared stories with farmers in rural villages. In each place, he learned new expressions, heard new accents, and embraced different cultures. He no longer felt like an outsider. He felt like a citizen of the world. His conversations were not always smooth. misunderstood or made mistakes. But instead of feeling embarrassed, he laughed, corrected himself, and moved on. That freedom came from years of practice, patience, and self-kindness. He realized that language is not about perfection, it's about connection. And through those connections, Michael discovered more than just new places. He discovered who he truly was. One afternoon, Michael sat alone in a quiet cafe in Paris. He sipped his coffee and looked around at the people talking, laughing, living. He thought about how far he had come, from a quiet grocery store in a small town to this moment. He took out his journal and wrote, "Learning English changed my life, not because of what I learned, but because of who I became." He closed the journal and smiled. A young man at the next table turned to him and asked in English, "Excuse me, are you Michael from the videos?" Michael nodded, surprised. "Yes, that's me." The young man smiled. "I just want to say thank you. I was afraid to learn English, but your story helped me begin." Michael thanked him warmly. After the man left, Michael sat still, feeling full of gratitude. His journey had inspired another, and that was the greatest reward of all. Back home, Michael continued his work with more passion than ever. He created a small foundation that offered free English classes to immigrants and refugees. Volunteers joined him. Some were former students, others were teachers who believed in his mission. The classroom was always full of energy. People laughed, stumbled over words, and encouraged each other. Michael walked around the room, correcting gently, praising often. He remembered every fear he once had and turned those fears into tools for empathy. He wasn't just teaching grammar. He was building confidence, community, and hope. Many students brought their children. They sat together, learning as a family. Sometimes students would bring food from their cultures to share after class. The room smelled of spices, soup, and fresh bread. They were learning more than English. They were building a new life together, one word at a time. One night, while preparing a lesson plan, Michael received an email that made him pause. It was from a publisher in New York. They had seen his videos and blog and were interested in turning his story into a book. At first, he hesitated. "I'm not a writer," he thought. But then he remembered something he had once told his students. "If it scares you, it's probably worth doing." He wrote every night for 6 months, pouring his heart onto the page. He shared his journey honestly. Every doubt, every failure, every breakthrough. When the book was published, it touched readers around the world. He received letters from readers in China, Brazil, Nigeria, and Poland. Some said, "I cried reading this." Others said, "You made me start learning again." Michael realized that his story didn't just belong to him anymore. It belonged to anyone who had ever doubted their ability to grow. Years passed, and Michael became a respected voice in language education. He spoke at conferences, consulted for schools, and even appeared on television. But he never forgot where it all started. One word, one step, one dream. He kept his original notebook in his desk drawer, the one filled with his earliest vocabulary lists. Whenever he felt tired, or unsure, he opened it and remembered the quiet man in the grocery store, the man who believed he was too old to change. That memory grounded him. It reminded him that greatness doesn't come from being the best. It comes from showing up day after day with heart. And so he kept learning. New words, new ideas, new ways to connect. His journey had no finish line, only new beginnings. Because for Michael, English was never just a language. It was a doorway to a larger life and a deeper version of himself. One spring morning, Michael was invited to speak at a graduation ceremony for adult learners. As he stood on the stage, he looked out at the crowd, faces filled with hope, determination, and pride. Many had arrived in the country with no English at all. Now they were finishing their first English program. Michael took a deep breath and said, "I see myself in all of you." He told them about his first nervous days, his mistakes, his small victories. "You are not behind," he said. "You are brave. You are exactly where you need to be." The audience listened in silence, some with tears in their eyes. When he finished, the room erupted in applause. It wasn't just a speech, it was a mirror, a reminder that every journey matters, that every voice deserves to be heard. Later that evening, Michael walked through the city alone. The air was warm, and the streets were alive with music and conversation. He stopped at a bookstore and saw his own book on display. He smiled, remembering the day he had written the first sentence. Inside, he saw a young woman picking up his book and reading the back cover. She looked thoughtful, hopeful. Michael didn't say anything. He just watched as she brought it to the counter to buy it. He stepped outside, his heart full. Life had given him many roles: student, speaker, teacher, writer. But the one he cherished most was that of a learner, because to learn is to grow. To grow is to live fully, and to live fully is to give freely of what we've learned. In that quiet moment, under the soft glow of the streetlights, Michael felt at peace. In the years that followed, Michael continued his journey, not chasing success, but sharing it. He wrote more books, helped build schools, and mentored new teachers. But he always left time for one simple habit: learning something new every day. A word, a phrase, a story. Because deep down, he believed learning was love in motion, a way to honor life itself. On his last day of teaching before retiring, he wrote on the board, "Start small, dream big, speak with courage." His students clapped, not just for what he had taught them, but for who he had helped them become. And as Michael walked out of the classroom for the last time, he whispered thank you, not just to his students, but to the language that had opened his world. English had once been a challenge. Now it was a gift, and one he would carry forever.